Hello and welcome to the program. I am DG Badimasi. Now, Kaduna State is currently embroiled in a crisis which calls for immediate attention. Several attacks in the last 4 to 5 years have culminated in hundreds of deaths and destruction of property. In the past weeks, unknown armed men have launched series of fresh attacks on southern Kaduna communities, with the most recent killings at Zikpak now village in Kafanchang. Scores of people are also in hospitals receiving treatment from various degrees of gunshots. The presidency calls it revenge killings by criminal gangs acting on ethnic and religious grounds. Governor Nasir El-Rufai has also called for a review, has actually called a review meeting now with security agencies in the state to review the situation. It's quite troubling, and everyone is very concerned about what is going on in southern Kaduna. And it's quite a surprise that the situation there appears to have defied every solution thrown at it. Joining me now to discuss this is KABIR, who is a security risk management expert. He joins us via Skype from Abuja. Mr. Adamu, thank you very much for joining us on the program. We're talking southern Kaduna once again. I mean, it's become a recurring issue now for over 5 years, as a matter of fact, for decades, if you like. But it appears in the past few weeks, the kind of attacks we've had, some people have said is quite unprecedented, because you have attacks happening almost, at some point, almost every day. What exactly, in your opinion, is going on in southern Kaduna?
It appears that there is a concerted effort to attack southern Kaduna, perhaps for, and I say this with all sense of responsibility, for political reasons. My reason for saying this is I stand to be corrected, but I doubt if there is any state in the Federation that has the number of military and police deployments, both in terms of formation as well as in terms of personnel.
Like how come they've just not been able to stop the attacks?
And I would explain that. I'll try and summarize it. The time will not allow us to go into the details, but I'll try and summarize it. Now, Kaduna is the melting point of a lot that is wrong with Nigeria. It shares 1, 2, or 3 things in common with Zamfara, Katsina, and several other locations such as Benue, Plateau State, that have been under the attacks of these bandits. One of them is ungoverned spaces. There are, in southern Kaduna in particular, there are several forested parts. There are mountainous areas that, frankly, there is no government presence. And we need to remember that these parts constitutionally belong to the state governments. Yes, the state governments sometimes have attempted to dominate them and have some form of presence, but the reality as at today, as we're talking, those places are not occupied. And this is where these gunmen come from, mostly. When they kidnap, this is where they go to. The second thing that is peculiar to Kaduna, and unfortunately also common in all other parts of Nigeria, is the failed criminal justice system that so far is unable to punish offenders. Like you said in your intro, Kaduna has over the years experienced different types of violence, the inter-community violence, religious violence, other types of violence. And it is documented that there are ethnic militias on both sides. And I want to emphasize this, on both sides, that are armed. Records, research has shown that till today, this current cycle of violence has been ongoing for more than 20 years. I'm not aware that a single person who is believed to be behind the arming or the instigation of this violence has been either arrested or has been tried for this. So that means the deterrence element in our criminal justice system, with particular reference to Kaduna, has failed. Now,
do you think political consideration could be the reason why this hasn't happened? Because you're quite right. We haven't seen any high-profile conviction. As a matter of fact, you hardly hear of arrests being made, and where arrests are made, the cases would appear to die there. Do you think this could be as a result of political interference?
Definitely. Daggers have been drawn, opinions have been formed, everybody thinks he's justified in his action. I mean, I've had statements over the last few days by different persons indicating, for instance, that there is a government collaboration, and some would even go back in history and issue and bring up statements made by the current governor. Now we need to also admit or take into consideration the fact that there is no love lost between the governor and most residents of Southern Kaduna. Ahead of the election, it was clear that they were not going to support him. And he also made it clear that, look, I can do without you. So he went ahead to select a deputy who is a woman and a Muslim. And, in other words, calling their bluff. And so there is clearly, as of today, no love lost between the two sides. Now, what I don't understand and I find really, difficult to appreciate is why, despite the time that has passed, an election has taken place, the two sides have not found it worthy to break this ice that is existing between them. Now, if the deputy is considered the highest political office holder in the state from Southern Kaduna, what has she as a person done to reduce the current political impasse? One thing that is clear, unfortunately, is that there is a political impasse, and someone somewhere is taking advantage of that. And that's why at the beginning of my statement I said there appears to be a political angle to this. Someone is taking advantage of this political impasse and is ramping up the killings to score some political points. And unfortunately, the current disposition of the governor has allowed that to happen. We can't take away from the governor the fact that he has attempted to come up with certain innovative solutions. He set up a Ministry of Homeland Security. He's appointed someone from Southern Kaduna to head that ministry, yet the killings are still ongoing. So unfortunately, I am left with no choice but to conclude that there's definitely a political angle to the killings. Now, who is behind that political angle? Unfortunately, the criminal justice system that is supposed to arrest offenders is unable to do that. Our intelligence agencies...
Another question I have to ask you, because you talked about intelligence, and which is very critical. Is there a chance, because it's something I find so difficult to understand, is there a chance that the intelligence agencies, our intelligence, are just not able to pick up the correct intelligence as to who is behind this attack? Because most times we see these attacks happen, the attackers come from somewhere, attack villages, kill several people, and then they go away. It's only after they've gone that you have the military coming in, and subsequently no arrest is made. I mean, the recent ones we had, up till this moment, no arrest has been made. And when you continue to have that kind of situation, then it means this will go on in perpetuity.
From what I know, there is credible intelligence. Both the intelligence gathering capabilities in Kaduna is probably better than most states in the country. There are early warning signs.
So why are they failing? The question is, why are they failing?
It takes us back to the issue of politics. Intelligence is a function of politics. I mean, if you're heading a unit in your station, as an example, and I give you intelligence and you're not interested in solving that issue that I'm providing you intelligence, you're not likely to move. Or if you know that if you touch that person, then you are going to trigger an action that will probably bring down your station. You're not likely to touch that person. So political correctness is another factor. Most of the persons that have been fingered from previous commissions of inquiry and investigative committees into this crisis are people that are either traditional rulers or are political brokers. They are powerful persons. And so if you touch them, their communities are likely to rise up in their support or against you, especially if you do not touch the other side. So, and I think it is this political correctness that has incapacitated previous governors and including the current governor. However, I'm aware that he has set up a committee to gather and harmonize previous reports that have been written. We were told that the report of that committee would be out, and he has promised that he's going to implement the report of that committee. So we hopefully will hold him up to his promise, because it is only when that is done that this will stop. If people are punished across the divide. And that deterrence element is seen. Then there may be a period of turmoil, but after that, people know that if they attempt to repeat that, then they are going to be punished. But for me, that's the way to go. That's the solution to this unfortunate killing.
All right, let's quickly take a short break now. When we come back, I want to get your take on this issue, the government claiming it's revenge killing. If the government says it's revenge killing, then it means the government knows something that we do not know. Then why is the government not doing something to arrest this issue of revenge killing? Stay with us. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching Analysis, and we're talking about the killings in Southern Kaduna. That's in northwest Nigeria, actually. And I still have KABIR ADAMU, who is a security risk management expert with us. KABIR, thank you very much for continuing to stay with us. Now, let me ask you this. The government says what is happening in Southern Kaduna is essentially a revenge killing. If the government says it's revenge killing, then the government should know who is revenging against who. And why is the government then not taking action against those who are carrying out this revenge and those who might also be carrying out reprisals against some other attacks that have been, visited upon them in the past?
The simple answer to this is political correctness. I mentioned earlier on that most of the people whose names have come up as either arming or instigating the violence are powerful persons who in their communities are leaders in one way or the other. So you touch them, you're touching the community. And I think that's one aspect. The other aspect is because of these ungoverned spaces where there is no government presence, really, and I make bold to say this, in most of the forested parts, there is no government presence. So the communities are the ones who should provide intelligence to the federal security agencies. You have to remember that the state government does not have much control in security. Now, where the communities are themselves foiling the violence because they believe it's a reprisal or revenge attack. So they are the ones actually foiling it. It means they're not going to provide the intelligence to government. So government is handicapped in that regard, and that is why technology is the way to go. These vast areas would require some form of technological surveillance capabilities. Drones is an example. Then there are several other technology that can be used to have surveillance in those areas, so that even where the communities are not providing the kind of intelligence, then government would have that intelligence available. But beyond all of this is the political correctness that I've mentioned. It would take a very bold governor or even a very bold president to come in and then arrest, and not only arrest, and ensure through the gathering of evidence that whoever is arrested is prosecuted through a transparent court process that will find him or her guilty. Unfortunately, political correctness will not allow that.
And that's really unfortunate. For political correctness, people are dying almost on a daily basis. That's quite sad. Well, KABIR ADAMU, thank you very much for your time, and thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be discussing something else. All right, welcome back. Now, President of African Development Bank, ADESINA, has once again been cleared of alleged ethical wrongdoings. Two organs of the bank, the Ethics Committee of the Board and the Bureau of the Board of Governors, had previously exonerated ADESINA of alleged corruption. However, following a complaint by the United States of America, an independent review panel led by former Irish President Mary Robinson was set up by the Bureau of Governors of the bank. That panel has now dismissed all 16 whistleblower allegations of corruption against the AfDB President for being unsubstantiated and lacking support of any solid evidence to back them up. Joining me now to discuss this is SURAJ, who is the chairman of the Civil Society Network Against Corruption. Lanre, thank you very much for joining us on the program. How important is this clearance by this independent review board?
It is very, very important, and it is also very desirable as well to actually go all these routes. And I'm happy that, eventually the Board of Governors of the AfDB eventually conceded to that option of having that independent, inquiry and investigation of that matter. Otherwise, those allegations would have remained sort of the AfDB president, even if he emerges as the president for his second term. So it is something that is desirable. It is something that is highly appreciated. Also recognizing the fact that this is not part of the laid down code of conduct and procedure for the bank. But if you have somebody or a country in the image of the United States insisting on that process without that clearance, like we have just seen, you can be sure that it is actually going to be a whole lot of challenge for the president.
But doesn't this undermine the independence of the bank? If the committee of the Board of Governors, and of course the other committee as well, sat and gave the president a clean bill of health, and then a minority shareholder came up to insist that an independent review be done, doesn't that undermine the independence of the bank? And some people have said, look, is it because this is coming from the United States of America?
Yeah, I mean, no doubt. This is because it's coming from the United States of America. So even though it's a minority shareholder in the bank, it is actually a major superpower. So it is certain that other forms of, forces would be deployed to achieve that purpose. So for now, and after this, it is open to the world for even the doubting Thomases and those who would want to be sympathetic towards, the United States, and those allegations of the so-called whistleblower are now clear that there are no substance in those, allegations. And this would also assist the bank in repositioning its independence. So now, with the clearance of all those allegations, not even one has been substantiated, it's obviously clear that the bank is open to external threat and forces. It is open to external compromise and infiltration, and that will require, under this circumstance, that there will be a need for the review of the code of conduct, and the Board of Governors will then have to put on such extra strenuous condition for having to go through this unprocedurial process of either investigating the president or any other person of the board.
I mean, you had an anti-corruption body. So is it a good thing when, some whistleblowers come together and make allegations against maybe the head of an agency like that of the AfDB, such a powerful agency, I must say. The mere fact that those allegations were made in the first place, doesn't it rub off negatively now on the bank?
No, the fact that the allegations were cleared, it's actually a major plus for the bank. It then also, it should strengthen it. It would have been working on the part of, and the point of weakness if these were not then investigated as required, or as requested rather, or demanded by the United States. It would have been a blight on the integrity of the bank. With this clearance, it actually repositions and also elevates the status of the bank. It is unfortunate that people, for political reasons and other personal benefit, decides to sponsor these spurious allegations against heads of organizations and agencies, like you said, because it undermines the legitimate, allegations that would be coming for them. So if this should continue, then people would not respect, allegations when they come. That is number one. Number two, it is also important that there should be also some punitive measures for people who also raise this level of, spurious allegations when they are unable to substantiate it or they are unable to defend those allegations. And when independent panel finds such allegation to be spurious and unsubstantiated, it shouldn't just be enough to exonerate, the CEO, but it's also for those people who actually went into that. And I think it is one of the archaic old laws in the United Kingdom that you can actually go for what they call criminal libel. So if you libel somebody, it is not just only for civil reasons where you can be indicted by the court and made to pay compensation. If those spurious allegation or libel is considered to be a threat to the public interest, you can actually be also convicted criminally for the breach of peace of the society. And I think this is some of the things that are very important to consider when dealing with people that are behind, spurious allegations of this nature.
So you're essentially saying that, look, the bank did not suffer any damage at all to its reputation as a result of all of this. Yes, it is true. He's been cleared. I'm talking about the president of the bank now, ADESINA. He's been cleared. But you think no reputational damage to the bank at all out of all of this?
I think the reputational damage actually has gone to the United States. The bank was in the high of the needle before this. The bank was at the receiving end before the panel. As at now, before the world, not only just the bank, but also the president are more or less like, the champion of that process because they've been vindicated. They have consistently maintained that there are no substance in those allegations. They have shown that they have an internal process that can actually redress any form of, issues considered to be either corrupt or untoward within the operations of the bank. And that has just been certified by not just the bank, but almost by the world, because everybody was looking forward to somebody of that high integrity and reputation in Mary Robinson to come out with an impartial,
Yeah, do you suspect, this is finally now, do you suspect some element of politics in all of this? Because a lot of people have said, look, I've had people who say, look, the reason why this actually came up in the first place is because it's a Nigerian who is heading the bank. And the fact that, not just a Nigerian, but, Anglophone Africa, and that basically what we had with those allegations was more like a gang up against not just Nigeria, but Anglophone Africa?
No, in every of the global offices and agencies, there's always politics. There's no doubt about it. Sometimes it's these forces of the progressive against the reactionary. It is also the forces of the oppressors against the liberators. It is usually some pressures of like I said, also the people-oriented system and government, and those that are corporate, oriented and system. So there's always the competing forces in an organization like an African Development Bank. And part of what we've read is to the extent that things are changing with the bank, the intervention and the relationship of the bank with the downtrodden, and also focusing more specifically on the agricultural revamping of the small-scale farmers and small-scale holders are improving. So there's going to be a lot of resistance to change when there are changes of this nature. So it is not surprising. It's nothing new. But the most important thing is that the bank has come out, better than it was. It has triumphed. One of the forces already lost. There's the victory for the other one, and it is left for the victorious one to sustain the temple of its philosophy and orientation.
And no doubt ADESINA is poised to be the next president of the bank. I mean, to get a second tenure, because he's the only candidate standing for re-election. And that, I think, is happening sometime in August. Well, thank you very much, Lanre SURAJ, for joining us on the program and for your contributions.
It's my pleasure. Always my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. That's it on the program. We thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.